Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about one of the hidden drivers of long-term real estate value in the Philadelphia suburbs, Route 202. Now if you're from Philly, if you're from the Philly suburbs, Route 202 is not a thing I need to explain, but if you're looking to relocate, maybe from DC, maybe from New York, this is one of the major north-south highways in the Philadelphia suburbs, and it will have a shocking impact on more than just home value, but job availability of the lifestyle you're looking to create, dining, schools, access to Philly, access to other major cities. 202 is an enormous, not very often talked about factor when it comes to Philly suburban home value. So we're going to talk about a bunch of different things. I'll walk through them in a second, but if you have any interest in the Philly suburban real estate scene, please like, subscribe, do all of the social media things. Now we'll talk about what we're actually here to talk about today. So, talk about why 202 matters for home values, what development really means in terms of real estate terms. It's more than just, hey, they're building a new development there. Talk about employment hubs, transportation and commute friction. Talk about retail, dining, and lifestyle nodes. School districts, which is, if you've seen any of my other videos, a huge driver of value in the Philly suburbs. Then we'll talk about new construction, zoning along 202. Talk about how micro-location can change even block by block along 202. And then, as always, what does this mean for buyers? What does this mean for sellers? So, Route 202 absolutely matters for home values in the Philadelphia suburbs. It's going to determine how predictable your commute is, the length of your commute, your access to employment, your access to day-to-day services, your convenience density without urban congestion. This is a trade-off a lot of people who leave cities should keep in mind. I know it was big for my wife and I when we were leaving DC and moving back up to the area. We wanted a lot of the amenities that cities had to offer, but we wanted suburban lifestyle. So your proximity to 202 will change how much suburbia you're getting versus how many amenities you're getting. And then resale confidence and maintaining long-term demand. This is big, and 202 plays a direct factor in that. So Route 202 obviously is not one market. We're going to talk really about Westchester up through Phoenixville with everything in between, Exton, Downingtown, Great Valley, Paoli, Malvern. I mean, these are a lot of different markets that would really take a 20, 30, an hour-long video to discuss even at a surface level on their own. We're going to talk about one road that connects them all. So let's talk about what development means for purposes of this video. So when people hear development, they often think new construction. It makes sense. That's how it's commonly referred to in real estate circles and real estate videos. But for home values, development is a broader term. So included in is new construction, but also what are opportunities for employment growth, new offices, medical facilities, corporate campuses, infrastructure improvements, so traffic patterns, road access, transit connectivity, retail and dining clusters, thinking like King of Prussia, and mixed use nodes. So this is where you get those walkability factors, services, and housing variety. I mean, just this past weekend, it was my mom's birthday. Happy birthday again, Mom. We put the family in the car, 4 or 5 minutes from where we live to get onto 202, took it straight down, 4 or 5 minutes off, and we're at my parents' place in Delaware. So, on that trip, not only did we see numerous different towns, but we saw this development that I'm talking about. We could have gotten off early, been about 3 minutes, and we would have been in King of Prussia Mall, a lot of mixed-use development, a lot of city commuters. A little bit further down, getting closer to Westchester, we saw new medical office buildings going up right next to some beautiful preserved farmland. So you really get the gamut of the Philly suburbs when you drive along 202. But there are things that you need to consider with being near any major thoroughfare, so the Blue Route 76, 202, all of these, that can be negatives and detract from long-term home value. One, obvious, everyone thinks about it, increased traffic congestion. Development often happens as capillaries off of major routes. Noise spillover, you see those big walls along 202, 76, all of those, they only do so much to contain the noise and send it up. And then overbuilding that expands too quickly in one pocket. That's when you have too much inventory, it's not being filled fast enough, so you could have a temporary or even long-term depression of home values there. So the key to development is navigating what's going to affect demand, what's going to affect supply. So let's talk about one of those first factors, employment hubs. This is arguably the number one value driver along 202. So buyers pay a premium to live near these job centers. So think about what they might be. A ton of jobs affiliated with the mall in King of Prussia. There are a lot of medical office buildings in King of Prussia. There are hospitals near King of Prussia. Same with Paoli, same with Phoenixville. These are all going to lead to job creation and smaller employment hub. Being near these hubs maintains home values even in the cyclical times of interest rates, or maybe there's stagnant construction in that area. If you have people that have to be there because of jobs, those homes are probably going to maintain their value well. So we'll talk about 202 and the 76 interchange. This is how my wife and I get into Philly for our respective jobs. It's a major regional job center, consistent demand driver for nearby towns. So you have buyers looking in Wayne, Villanova, parts of Radnor Township, often cite easy access to King of Prussia as a reason to pay more to live in that area. So transportation and commute friction, so access versus noise, essentially, or buildup. So 202, the proximity can increase home value because it reduces travel times, it gives you access to all of these amenities. But there is a border where it switches over to start detracting from home value because of congestion and noise. So for example, clean 5-minute hop onto 202 from a home in Malvern often will outperform a similar home that requires navigating local bottlenecks, and maybe it ends up being 15 minutes to get to 202, and now you're really into your commute. So retail, dining, and lifestyle nodes. These all move the market. So I'm just going to walk through some examples because everyone kind of gets this. But it's nice to know what is actually in the area, especially if you're looking to relocate from another city and don't have a great sense of what every town has to offer. So talking about downtown Wayne and Lancaster Avenue, this is an extremely walkable town, movie theaters, shopping that's more than just big chains. You get local outlets that have some amazing stuff, some great jewelry stores, some great clothes, a lot of things that you would expect to see when you're walking down a major thoroughfare in a city. Exton, retail and services, ecosystem, errands are very easy. This matters for families. Homes are a little more reasonable here on average than, for instance, like Wayne or Villanova. So it's a good kind of transition period from out of the city to maybe some of these luxury suburbs just based on median price. And then you have a place like Westchester. My family, for my mom's birthday, just went to Limoncello. If you haven't been, check it out. The food's amazing. Great gluten-free food as well. It's delicious. Their drinks are great too. But a lot of events in that downtown area. It is a college town. And you get a great restaurant scene. So another way that being near 202 combined with these lifestyle amenities can help drive home value up. So now, if you've seen my other videos, I'm sure you're like, we talk about this enough, but schools are a huge factor in long-term home value creation. So I'm just going to go through some of the high demand districts along 202. So the Radnor Township School District, think the Wayne area, Tredyffrin, so mainline adjacent, Chester County access, so we're about a half mile from that here. But that Conestoga High School is a big draw for a lot of people, very highly rated. No comment on whether it's right for you or wrong for you, but people do want to be around there. The Great Valley School District in the Malvern area, fantastic. There are also a lot of great private schools in this area, Episcopal, Malvern Prep. If you head a little bit farther north into Pottstown, the Hill School is a great school. And then you have the Westchester Area School District and all of those adjacent townships. I was actually at Unionville for a few years before we moved over into Delaware. Great school. So you're going to get these increased home value around 202, partially because of the convenience of 202, but partially because these are great schools. These are walkable towns with a lot of amenities. So let's talk about new construction, zoning, and inventory pressure. Inventory might be the biggest issue in the Philly suburbs right now. A lot of zoning prevents mass new development along especially major corridors like 202. There's limited remaining buildable land, especially in established areas. And there's community resistance to dense development. People want the suburbs for a reason. They don't want to feel stacked on top of each other, especially if they just moved out of a city and they're trying to avoid that. So there are a lot of barriers in place to new construction. So that's why large subdivision growth is less common, especially when you're just up against 202. But there are still developments coming up, and I know I just used developments the other way, but infill builds. There are a lot of small townhouse communities popping up. I know if you drive through King of Prussia, you'll see a lot of these. And there are teardowns and custom builds that are always available if you want your own unique stamp on a property in the suburbs. So micro-location. This can be big, especially keeping commutes in time, access to the town in time. So which side of a major road you're on. If you're even 5 minutes on the wrong side of 202 and it takes you 5 minutes to get to 202, then a couple of minutes to interchange around 202, and now to get to the other side, that's going to make that 7, 8, 9 minutes will make a big difference if maybe you'd have a 3-minute walk into a major town like Westchester versus now we're getting in the car and it's 10 minutes to get to Westchester. So you got to think about exactly where you're located versus where these major amenity hubs are. Also, school assignment can change in just a few blocks. We know that. We are just a few blocks away from Tredyffrin. We love the school district we're in right now, but that will make an impact on future home value for us. That was something we weighed. Noise and traffic patterns, this one is obvious. No one loves well, maybe you do, but most people don't love going to sleep with 202 in their ears. So thinking about that kind of proximity is big. I know my wife and I passed on a home that was too close to 202 for that very reason. And so let's dive into what does this mean for buyers in 2026 and what does this mean for sellers in 2026. So for buyers, treat 202 as a value map, not a guarantee. Not everywhere along 202 is going to hold its value, but there are certainly pockets that will. You need to prioritize the best friction possible. And friction is going to be different for everyone. Maybe you just hate commuting, so you just want to be as close as possible, and that's going to give you as frictionless of a life as you are looking for. Maybe you just want to be as close to a town as possible. Maybe you don't care about commuting at all and you just want that full suburban sprawl lifestyle. You need to figure out what is best for you in that situation. You should be looking at total lifestyle convenience. So that's your work commute. That's how easy it is it to get to whatever schools maybe you're interested in, whatever downtowns you're interested in, whatever shopping you need, grocery stores. The entire package of what your lifestyle is going to look like should feed into where you're looking, not just your work commute. And now what does this mean for sellers in 2026? So you need to understand exactly where you are. Your access to 202, other major corridors will affect how you should be pricing your home, how you should expect buyers to approach your home, whether it is going to be of value to other people like it is to you, or maybe you love that home for a unique reason that might not appeal to everyone. You need to keep all of this in mind. This is why microlocation, not just your zip code, is extremely important when determining home value. So the final takeaways here. 202 corridor absolutely impacts long-term home value, but in a number of different ways.